Chris Irwin. Prior to coming on at Forsyte IT Solutions, I was a 10-year Microsoft veteran. Spent a lot of time in the education space, covering identity, operations management, and Azure all up. And I've got with me my partner, Chuck McBride. Chuck, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hey guys, how are you? My name is Chuck McBride. I founded my Forsyte approximately 2 years ago, and recognizing that the cloud was a wave of the future, I started to really grow this company and start to move it in that direction, and bringing on strong resources like Chris has actually allowed us to grow and expand our Microsoft talents greatly. So this is a great presentation, and the technology that we're talking about here is pretty amazing, and I look forward to hearing your questions as we go through.
Excellent. Well, let's get the ball rolling here. So a little bit about Forsyte. We are a Microsoft Gold partner in both, or in cloud productivity, cloud platform, enterprise mobility, and security. And we really pride ourselves, as Chuck mentioned, and one of the reasons I left MS to come out into the partner space is, we really pride ourselves on being customer-centric, being passionate and innovative, and providing solutions that really meet your needs, taking advantage of Microsoft technologies, almost exclusively cloud technologies. That's really where we focus and want to spend our time at. Some of our core services are going to be messaging, so Office 365, Google Office 365 migrations. We have experience with over 250 migrations, dedicated project teams, a full service help desk for those of you looking for managed services. Very, very in-depth in data center. We have several Azure certified architects on staff doing Store Simple, disaster recovery, ADFS, Express Route. We spend a lot of time in the security space that kind of dovetails with those components, doing privileged access management through the new suite in Microsoft Identity Manager, Azure Information Protection, Azure Rights Management, and then finally identity. And the core component of this is what we do is identity. I was the worldwide identity lead for a long time at Microsoft. I have a passion for that. And so we really look at identity from a foundational standpoint. It is a foundational block for everything you're going to do in the cloud, and so we focus a lot on that. Simplified provisioning, IaaS and PaaS, being device agnostic, doing a lot of Windows 10 out of the box experience stuff. So enough about us. Let's go ahead and start digging into what we're here to hear about, and that's going to be operations or OMS. So today, as most of you are fully aware, really straddling two worlds. We've got our traditional data centers. They're tightly coupled. We have ultimate control over them in a lot of instances. And, there's a lot of good things about traditional data centers. Some of the things we run into, though, is they're expensive. They can be, difficult to integrate new hardware. Geo-redundancy can become an issue. You become very siloed. From a cloud model, it really gives developers a business critical role, allows them to go out and expand much quicker. There's a lot more flexibility. The server is no longer the center point, right? It's the cloud at that point. It's being able to take advantage of hyperscale and all of the investments made in and around that. So from a modern IT investment standpoint, this is kind of an all-up life cycle. We'll start up here in the build phase, right? So we develop tools, we package applications, spin up VMs, those type of things. We go through and we need to be able to orchestrate that. We need to be able to control what happens when patches are put in place, that we've got consistent configurations across the board. After we've got our configurations and orchestrations in place, we need to be able to monitor it, take a look at analytics, discover what's happening, dig into alerting. These are all vastly important pieces of infrastructure, not infrastructure, but vastly important pieces of the pie here. If we don't know what's going on in our environment, we don't know how to react. We don't know how to secure things and how to be proactive without the monitoring solutions. Protecting. You got to be able to back it up. We got to be able to recover it. We got to be able to restore. We need business continuity. Detection and prevention. So when you are attacked, who attacked you, when they attacked you, and how do you prevent that? And all of that rolls up in the cost, the policies, and the subscription. And what we're really going to talk about is a holistic view of this. What does OMS provide? Which components of this does it touch on? And how does that integrate with your existing data center and the current investments that you make? So Microsoft's hybrid IT management story. It really looks like this. We've got operations management suite sitting in the middle. It has the ability to connect into your public cloud, Azure, AWS, Rackspace, whatever you're using. Doesn't matter. It has the ability to hook into that. Also has the ability to hook into your hosted and third-party private cloud. These are going to be, anyone that you're co-ing with, whether that be Apex or Rackspace or anyone else. And then finally, your on-premise components. Taking advantage and mining data out of your VMware environments, your Hyper-V environments, Linux, Windows workloads, network switches. This is not limited to Windows servers, so I want to say that up front, and we'll see that over and over again. This is a very open platform, and it's going to give you access into all of your systems across the board, not specifically Microsoft systems. So that's going to be a theme that we'll see going forward. Any cloud, any platform in the hybrid environment is really what we laid out and discussed here. So we're going to go through and talk about the 4 pillars here, and then we're going to dig into a demo and explore all of the capabilities that we have at our fingertips. First, visibility. This is going to be end-to-end monitoring, analytics and data correlation, preemptive health checks, usage tracking, and real-time alert management. So the ability to go through and aggregate millions of records across your entire environment quickly and easily without having to have on-premise infrastructure to crunch it and take advantage of it. If you have a current system center implementation, we can leverage that and get additional analytic data out of that environment. Very, very nice to have the visibility, though. Next is control. We can see what's going on. What do we do about it? Being able to push out desired state configurations. System states on the environment, if you have a particular set of configurations that you utilize in your environment, you can use desired state config to quickly and easily deploy that across the environment and maintain consistency. Workflow orchestration. Microsoft had a phenomenal product in System Center Orchestrator that's been extended out to the cloud. Being able to kick off workflows, being able to go through and take alerts that come in and have an action happen. We can orchestrate failovers and a whole host of other things. And then service management. Protection. So now we have visibility in the environment. We can control what's going on. We can react as needed or be proactive whenever possible. How do we protect that? OMS is going to enable always-on backup and disaster recovery, continuous health monitoring, and automated backup and disaster recovery processes. There's really 2 components here, right? There is backing up of servers, bare metal backups, file level backups and restores, and there's also the business continuity point. You have a machine, it goes down, how do you get that back as soon as possible? Azure Site Recovery is a component of Operations Management Suite and allows you to do just that. When your on-premise machine goes down, you can automatically orchestrate the failover to a machine running in Azure and have little to zero downtime. Pops right back up, they're off to the races. We can work on rebuilding our on-premise environment and fixing the issue that caused it to go down in the first place. So very, very powerful and gives you a nice recovery option if and when you do have an issue. And then finally, security. Being able to go through system health checks, fully exposing what's happening in the IT environment. Again, not just Windows. This is Linux servers. This is your network switches. If you've got log files out there that are floating around from various systems, you can go ahead and pull those in. And then finally, application management. So this is real-time performance of visibility into your application. So you can build this into apps. You can load that data up into OMS and dig out the results that you need. So we've got 45 minutes. I'm going to kind of go through these slides. I really want to focus on the demonstration. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into the demo of OMS and take you through that. Bear with me 1 second here. I know we've had a couple of other folks join since then while we're going through and I'm getting this loaded up. I just want to tell you there is a way to expand the screen out. If you don't have that available and you haven't seen that yet, I'll give you a real quick, I'll show you real quick how to do that so that you can see this demonstration as we go through and full experience here. So in the top corner of your screen, and you can see what we've got going on. There's 4 little dots up there. I've got it highlighted here. If you click on that, that will expand it out and make it full screen so you can see fully what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and hop over into OMS here. So as you can see, I've logged into my Azure dashboard here. I've got OMS portal here, which opens up this tab, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in because it's already loaded up. This is the Operations Management Suite dashboard. When you first come into your environment, you can create and customize this dashboard any way you'd like. I can go through my dashboard and I can put custom alerts in here. I can set this up so that only certain people can see it. Maybe my network operations folks get one dashboard, my management gets another dashboard. Completely customizable, and you can lock down who can see what. But we're going to start back over with the default here. All up, a lot of information, pretty graphs, lots of stuff going on here. I'm going to take you through these real quick. We're going to talk through them, and then we're going to start digging in. So first and foremost, you see I've got multiple things. So I've got AD assessment, I've got alert management, anti-malware assessment, etc. What these are, and Microsoft calls these solutions. Okay, and we're going to jump down to the solutions gallery here, and I'll show you that, and then we'll come back to this. So the solutions gallery is really pre-built packages that we utilize in Operations Management Suite. A lot of these are written by Microsoft. This will be opened up, and there will be third-party apps available in here or solutions available in here. And they do various things for you. And we're going to go through and actually dig into a lot of these. But things like System Center Operations Management Preview. If you've got System Center, I can use this particular solution pack to dig in and get me the help on it. AD Assessment. I can use this particular solution, or AD Assessment, this particular solution to go in and assess the health of my Active Directory environment in an ongoing fashion. And there's all sorts of stuff, log analytics, AD replication status, etc. So very, very cool. We're not going to get into all of these, obviously, but we will dig into a few of them. Let's jump back over here, and first thing I want to show you is usage. So I have a way in the system to pull out the usage in my environment. Very, very nice graphs. They give you a good picture of what's going on. This is real live data in here. I don't have a ton of machines, but you can see what's coming in. You can see my data volume over time, what that looks like, which machines are contributing the most data into my environment, which solutions are consuming the most data. Obviously, security is a big one here. Data not associated with a particular computer. I've got log management, Office 365, which we'll look at. If you surface custom logs up in here for switches or routers or something along those lines, you'd be able to dig through and find that. I can go through and get some insights. You know, where am I pulling my logging and analytics components? These are the various nodes in the system. So I've got log or insight and analytics, got automation and control, I've got security nodes, and I can dig through each one of these and see what's going on. I can also get an idea of my performance, max latency, and when these types of things are happening. So let's go through and take a look at the settings real quick, and then we're going to start looking at analytics and some of the assessments. So from a settings standpoint, you're going to see, again, all of the solutions that I've got available to me. Here's the 21 that I have installed in my environment. I'm going to be able to look at my connected data sources. These are going to be Windows servers that I have connected, any Linux boxes that I would have, Azure storage counts. So if you've got, again, those custom log files, all you need to do is drop them in a storage account, we'll consume them. If you have a System Center environment, that can be hooked in here, and we'll pull all sorts of analytical data out of System Center. Office 365, this is hooked into our Office 365 environment. I'm going to show you what can be harvested out of there, as well as Windows telemetry data. So if you've got Windows telemetry enabled on your machines, or you'd like to, you can connect that in and pull that type of data back into OMS for processing. From a data standpoint, I can go through and we can tweak this. Windows event logs, which event logs do I want to pull in? If there's one that specific that I want to monitor, I can type it in and search for it and add it in here. Performance counters, these are the perf counters that I have in here and the parameters for them. If there's additional performance counters, again, I can just search for it. I can pull up the performance counter here, and we can see there's a whole host of performance counters that I can start collecting data on and pulling into my environment, things that I may care about. Same thing for Linux. I don't have any Linux systems, obviously. It's not going to be in there. IIS logs, custom fields. So if you have custom fields that you want to add into the system. You can tweak it and add it there. Custom logging, this logs, and then file tracking logs. We have a whole host of things under data that we have the ability to pull in and tell OMS that we want to report on, that we care about, and want to dig into. Computer groups, nice way to segment off your machines, to find machines that you want to pull in. I can pull them out directly out of Active Directory. I can break them up into WSUS groups. If you guys are using WSUS to push out updates, you can integrate that into OMS and use that as part of your patch management, as well as SCCM. If you have an SCCM membership, you can pull those collections in. Accounts, we're not going to spend too much time on accounts, but if I had automation accounts or those type of things, I can enter those. Alerts, this is a very cool feature. So you can go in and create custom alerts on anything you want. And then you can have those custom alerts either take actions through orchestration, they can fire off emails, all sorts of stuff. And we're going to go in and look at some of those. But these are custom alerts that we've configured in our environment that do various things. Power BI, for those of you that are familiar with it, you have the ability to export most of this data into Power BI. Once you do that, you've got a whole host of options available to you. You can go do all sorts of cool stuff with Power BI. And then the preview features, we've enabled Power BI integration and custom logging. Any new preview features that come in will show up and be available through here. So I'm going to jump in real quick, and we're going to look at log analytics. I'm going to show you some of the logs that we've got, and then we're going to burrow into a couple of these solutions and show you what that's all about. So first and foremost, log analytics. This looks very similar to what you folks may have seen with Splunk or some similar tools. One of the main separators here, OMS does a phenomenal job of parsing millions of logs very, very quick. The beauty of this is it's a SaaS operation. It doesn't require me to stand up and maintain a ton of infrastructure on premise. Microsoft deals with that. All you do is throw data at it. Microsoft supplies and deals with all the compute power and make sure that we've got everything we need. So we're going to look real quick. I'm going to look for type equals event. Oops, make sure I type correctly. And boom, we can say, okay, these are the events that I've pulled back out of my system. I got 30,000 events in here in the last day. I can scale this up. We can look at the last 7 days, see how that comes back. We can look at a custom event range and set that for as long as you need to. Down the left side, I've got very easy ways to sift this data down. If I want to look at successes, I want to look at errors, warnings, all I got to do is click a simple box here, and it's going to filter these down and show me the 16,000 errors that pertain to events in that particular environment. So very, very quick and easy way to skim down and see exactly what's going on in my environment here. So I want to take a look at perf here. I want to look at perf data in my environment. So I'm outputting a fair amount of perf data. I've got over 1 million perf requests in here over the last 7 days. Now, I could take these results in a couple of different methods. I can do the list view, which is what I've got here, and it's a very serial method, and it just shows me all of the events that are in the system. I can do a table view, it gives me a nice view here. I can see per computer basis what the operator type is. So these are logical disks. This is the counter I care about, the instance, the value, etc. So I get all sorts of useful information here. Or I could go to metrics here, and it's going to build out a graph for this particular environment. And this is where I could potentially see real-time metrics. So depending on how fast you have this coming in, this will update real-time. But I can dig through and get a nice graph and see what these metrics are doing and what's going on. So let's get a little more specific, and I'm going to use a query I want to type. And I want to look at a particular machine. In this particular case, I'm going to do a perf counter, and I'm going to feed it a specific machine. We'll hit search here. Left off quote. And so we're going to get all the perf counters that pertain to a specific machine. And I don't necessarily care about that, but we'll get in and look at the table. I can see exactly what's happening on this particular machine and all of the perf counters. So very, very powerful. If I wanted to set alerts on this, all I've got to do, I can either save the query and it'll save that off, or I can simply hit the alert button here, and it pops me in to this nice little wizard. I give it a name, I give it a description, what the severity is going to be, this is the query that it's running, the window, how often I want to check, and then my actions. Do I want to fire off an email notification? Do I want to use a webhook where I can hook into a web service and call some functions? Or do I want to call runbook? If I want to call runbook, I could simply hit that. And then based on the automation account, this automation account specifically doesn't have any runbooks attached to it, but if I had one that did, my runbooks would show up here. Something else I want to point out, and we'll cover more in the automation section, is hybrid worker. Azure Automation is not specific to Azure. It can run anywhere using a hybrid worker role. So these could be alerts that we're collecting in the SaaS up in Azure, and we can have it execute scripts or run books against your on-premise environment to take action if we have something happening. So I'm going to show you one more thing here, and then we're going to start digging into the AD assessment. So go back to the log search here. This is kind of cool. So we're looking at security baseline analyzer, and I want to see what's failed my baseline analyzer. I can go through and see, okay, in this particular case, I had this machine here, so my fit-azr-dpmo2. I can see that the baseline that it failed was reg key. I can see what the description is, and then I can see that I have a security baseline here. Let's go back and look at this list view. I can pull it out and show them a bit more data and see exactly what it's failing on and why. So we can dig in. These are hyperlinks, and I can get more additional information on them. So we'll come back and we'll see more of this as we continue through the demo. I don't want to spend too much time on this. We've only got about 10 or 15 more minutes to do the demo. I want to leave some time for Q&A. AD assessment is a really cool one. So AD assessment runs over 100 different checks on your Active Directory environment. These checks are fed in by the Active Directory product group, by PFEs. If you've had things like health checks or RAPs done in the past, those best practices are loaded up into Azure on a regular basis. They're always updated, and the system analyzes for those particular things. I can see across the board, I passed 17 checks here. I had one low priority recommendation. You can see here, I had 72 that I passed here and 2. Now, the beautiful part about this is I can dig in to these recommendations, and it gives me prioritized recommendations and how to fix them. So I can go through, it makes it very simple for me to identify, tells me exactly what I need to do here. It gives me, aside from the assessment, gives me TechNet articles that I can dig in, get more information on that particular assessment. So we can see very, very cool operations monitoring, migration and deployment, performance scalability. Gives me a very nice assessment across the board of my environment. So I want to look at alert management here. Alert management is nice red and yellow. That's because I created a bunch of custom alerts that keep firing off, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So you can customize this to your environment. Just like with anything, when you turn it on and it's a little chattery, you could tone it back if you want, if you need to. So in this particular case, I can look and see, okay, well, here's all my critical alerts, and here's the 2 alerts that are kicking off. Here's all of my warnings. If I had any SCOM alerts, they would show up here. And then here's all of my alerts and how it breaks down. And I can dig into these, and it takes me straight over to this query. Then it'll pull back all of the particular alerts, and we can dig in and see exactly what's happening here. So very, very nice and easy way to surface up all the custom alerts that you create and dig into the environment there. I want to show you SQL assessment here. Real similar to the Azure AD assessment. SQL assessment, again, got over 100 checks, PFEs, etc. Build that out. You get the same kind of concept here. So we've got security alerts, we've got business continuity and availability. We can dig in and say, okay, well, I'm not scheduling my backups here on this particular server, or I'm using a particular database model type, and I can dig in and see how this would affect me, what the context of it is. So very nice and easy way for you to get a handle on your SQL environment without having to spend a lot of time. The system comes out and does all the checks for you. I know a lot of you folks are running Office 365. This can give you some nice analytical insights into Office 365 as well. Very simple to set up. We hook it in, it starts pulling in data, and you can go through and dig into your environment and see what's happening. Who are the highest users in your environment? What activities are they using from an Exchange standpoint? Where are your SharePoint activities at? And you can dig in and see, oh my goodness, well look, here's file release. We had 99 of those, file sync and downloads. People downloading files. And we can dig in and get very specific information in your environment and see who's doing it, when are they doing it, why are they doing it, what IP they came from, etc. So very powerful information can be pulled natively out of Office 365 and provide you a ton of insight into your current environment. I know I'm going through a lot of this fast. We've only got about 15 or 20 more minutes for demo, and so I want to make sure we cover as much as possible here. Change tracking is something that we see a lot of use in. Keeps tracking your environment, tells us when software was changed, when it was added, when it was removed, gives me a nice table, and I can go through and say, okay, well, this particular domain controller here had some software removed, it had the DPM agent removed on it. At this particular date, it had DPM agent installed on it. And you see we were doing some testing, adding and removing. Gives you an awesome graph into the environment, though, and the ability to track changes across your environment. See changes over time. Was it to a Windows service? Was it software that changed? daemons, files? Ton of pertinent information in your environment at your fingertips. And again, not specific to Windows. We can pull this in from a Linux environment as well. So change tracking is something we have a ton of interest in across the board. I'm going to dig into two more things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chuck. I want to talk a little bit about the anti-malware and the security, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chuck to talk about updates and backup. So let's dig in real quick here to the anti-malware assessment. Anti-malware assessment is built in. It'll go out, query your servers, and make sure that they have malware tools installed, and then list out what they are. We just spun up a new server today, so you can see this. As you can see, we've got one machine out here that doesn't have enough protection on it. It's only got the malicious software removal tool installed, and then we've got 6 machines with endpoint protection on them. And I can see quickly, okay, well, I had a machine here that's showing doesn't have protection. Why? Well, it's not reporting, right? So I can dig in and I can find out which machine that is. I happen to know why because it's turned off, so it's not reporting. But you have the ability to go in and dig that out very quickly and easily and see exactly what's happening in the environment. So I want to dig into one of my favorite parts here. This is the security and audit solution. Security and audit gives you some very valuable information and insights into your environment. Some of it is quite frankly scary. So first and foremost, we're going to see security domain. What are we checking out here? Anti-malware assessment, the update assessment, identity and access, computers, baselines that we're checking out. So these are all your Microsoft baseline assessments that MS publishes, and then threat analytics, threat intelligence. And we'll dig into these. So notable issues. First and foremost, it's going to go down the list, and it's going to list out environmental issues. I've got computers that are missing some updates here. I've got some issues on my SQL side, missing critical updates on this machine, and I can jump right in and see which machine that was, and it's this particular DPM server that we just stood up today, and see exactly what's going on, the accounts that are logged into it, any threats, specific events. Very, very powerful information. It gives me detailed analysis on the machine itself from a security standpoint. So we'll jump back here. And I know the detection previews here and threat intelligence always catch everyone's eye. We're a small environment, and you can look and see we are getting attacked regularly with alarming frequency. And I can dig into these botnet attacks here. And this is in the last day. I've had 20 botnet attacks in my environment. How do we know that? Microsoft has an entire team that is dedicated to security and cybersecurity. Microsoft sniffs out these botnets and puts that information out on the web, and OMS takes advantage of that. And so I can dig in, and it's going to have known IPs. It's going to have all sorts of information specific to these particular types of threats. So let's go into the threat analysis here. And so I can see, okay, well, I've had 5 of them come from the People's Republic of China, United Kingdoms, Netherlands, Russia, Singapore. Let's dig in and see who's attacking us. And here we go. It's caught in an IS log. I can see the Git come in. It's a known member of a conflict or botnet, and that's why we're seeing this. Now, this is in the last day. Let's take a look at the last 7 days. So I went from 5 results to how many? That's going to expand that out. It's searching over hundreds of thousands of logs right now, and I've had 35 attacks in the last 7 days from various botnets trying to attack my environment. And this is specific to the People's Republic of China, so they're really after me this week. So very, very cool. This one's Pony Loader. And I can click on this, and I can get some specific information on the description. It's going to give me all of the Pony Loader ones, and I can show more information and really dig in on the botnet attack on my particular environment. One other thing I want to show you aside from that is detections, right? So what's happening? So last one day, nobody's really tried to break in. But if I expand that out to 7 days, I can see in the last 7 days, I've had 3 failed brute force attacks on my environment. It allows me to expand this out, and I can see exactly what's happening. It gives me remediation steps. How do I fix this? These are the Azure servers. I can go through and I can create network security group rules to for allow lists specifically to RDP access. Gives me some very specific information on how to protect myself against these attacks, and gives me some interesting details. When I start digging through, I can see, okay, well, in this particular attack that happened on the 9th, lasted for 3 minutes and they had 87 failed attempts. Very specific information on the environment and the attack that I suffered. It really allows you to dig in and see what's going on and some of the things that you need to protect against. So I'm going to turn this over to Chuck and let him run for a minute. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat window, and we will circle back and touch on them shortly. Chuck, you should have control. Feel free to take off.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Are you hearing me, Chris? Just making sure.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I'm going to actually switch windows here because, well, first off, I want to say, Chris, great presentation, great information here. It's pretty exciting to see this kind of stuff. And, the information that you're giving us here is really allowing us to really better manage our IT environment and protect us from the threats that are out there in an ever-changing IT world that we live in today. One of the pillars that is available within OMS is Azure backup and site recovery. And we could spend a little bit of time in the OMS portal here looking at backups, but we're not going to really we're really not going to see that much information here because all that they really show you here is that you have 2 servers and that they're being backed up and the amount of data that's being consumed for those backups. However, if we go back over to the Azure portal, we can actually click on to the Chris, I'm not seeing your backup. Okay, I'm sorry. We have a backup vault that we've already created for our environment, and we pre-populated it with a couple servers that we're backing up today. With backups within OMS, there are 3 different ways that you can back up a server. Now, if you have a server that is sitting in Azure, you can actually back that server directly up into your environment and back it up directly to the OMS or to the backup vault. This is more like, I would consider this more like a system state backup, meaning that you can recover that server as itself, as another server, and boot it up, and it would function as it were before.
And there's no
if you want to be a little bit more, there is absolutely no infrastructure needed for that.
Perfect.
For me personally, one of the things that I've done here is actually any Azure server that we have, we actually use this as the mechanism to back up the files. And then we since we are a fairly small company, we take on the second role as well, where we enable the Windows backup client on the Windows backup agent on the Windows servers that we have here, and we attach it with the Azure backup agent, which allows us to back up directly files. It allows us to back up the files and information on that server to the cloud directly. So not only do we have a system state type backup here, we also have the ability to recover files directly using the Windows backup client, and that's actually backing that data up to the cloud. Now, you could do a system state backup using that backup agent as well, but since we're dealing with Azure files, this is a lot quicker way for us to recover. I think the important thing is this method that I'm talking about here. If you were to use the Windows agent, you could actually back up on-prem servers directly to the cloud without having any infrastructure needed to do that. The third way of backing up the environment is using Data Protection Manager. And with a subscription, whether you're using the consumption that you have available within Azure today, or whether you have actually purchased a license of OMS, you can use Data Protection Manager to back up your data. And basically what that allows you to do is create a server where that acts as a proxy to your cloud environment. So it improves the performance backups, it improves the recovery times, and it is a single pane of glass into your backup environment. Again, another one of those things is not overly simple to view here in the backup portal, but you can use the OMS or the Azure Backup or the DPM tool simply to install the agent. It installs a copy of SQL Server onto that server. You are able to discover the servers that are built within your environment. You attach those servers to your backup environment, and then you're able to then back up the server. Now you can set a term on how long you would like to keep the backups local to that server. Default is 5 days. After 5 days, those backups are sent to the cloud, and they're kept according to the backup requirements that you set for that policy. Okay, it's a very slick tool, very easy to set up, and to me, it really changes how we're doing backups today. The second piece that's available here is Recovery Manager, or Azure Site Recovery. And basically, look at this as more of a disaster recovery type utility. You can install it using, with your VMware or Hyper-V environment, and it allows you to take those images of those servers, create a hot copy of those images on the Azure environment, and allow you to fail it over to another environment or to Azure or wherever you see that recovery needs to be. And I think that's important because I know many organizations today keep multiple data centers active in order to support a disaster recovery need. This here would help facilitate that for one thing, and also it potentially could replace it simply by enabling that recovery to occur within Azure itself. So it's a nice utility. It's very difficult, again, to show how this works within our environment since we're primarily all cloud, but it's a really quick tool to set up, and it's easy to fail a server over from one environment to another. So those are the basics around the backup in Azure Site Recovery. Chris, do you want to take it over and talk real briefly about automation, and then I'll pick it up on wherever you need some backfill?
Absolutely. So automation we mentioned briefly, and I'm going to show you the automation console here. So if we go under this automation account, we can see I've got multiple options available to me. First and foremost is ESC nodes. Those are the desired state configs. I can build, these are the nodes that I have attached to it. These are the configurations that you want. You can build out configurations and then group them for specific servers. So maybe you've got web servers and you want to configure web servers a specific way. You know, they're a particular patch level and they've got certain firewall rules, etc. You can configure all of that and push out those configurations via desired state config, and it'll continuously push that information out and keep it up to date. I'm going to show you a little bit about assets and then runbooks, and I'll turn it back over to Chuck to talk about patch management, and we'll wrap it up with Q&A. Assets, I think this is a pretty cool feature. So everybody's got complex environments. They've got multiple servers, multiple workloads, etc. They've got lots of different scripts running. In the assets component, I have the ability to put in credentials here. I mean, see, this has actually got my account in it. It encrypts it and stores it in Azure and allows me to utilize that in various scripts without having to, put it in a script file or something along those lines. So, secure method to store credentials that you would use throughout your environment from a scripted and automation fashion. Do the same thing with certificates. So by default, Azure adds in a couple of certs to interact with Azure VMs for the authentication component. Variables. This is very powerful because I can go in here in a central location and I can input information and use this in my various scripts. I also have the ability to encrypt it. So here's a storage key that's attached to the storage account, and it's encrypted. So I'm writing the script. I don't have to have a clue what the storage account is. Nobody can see what the key for it is, but I can utilize it in my script, and it's secure and safe. Also gives me the ability to do central point updates and have that flow throughout my run books. So I've got a run book that fires off email notifications. All I got to do is change the server here, and I can have that flow down to all of my various run books. We'll show you run books real quick. So these are some of the run books that I've got created. There's a gallery out there, open source. You can add in your own custom run books or pull run books from other folks. Here's a very simple one that I have created to send email. Let's just take a look at it real quick. This is a simple PowerShell run book. Does some very basic stuff, takes some parameters. I feed it in those variables that I was just showing you, right? There's the SMTP server, there's the port that we're using, etc. And this is a building block. I call this run book to send email from multiple other run books throughout my system. Now, it's very important, and the last thing before I turn it back over to Chuck, this is not specific to Azure. It's native to Azure, but with the hybrid worker role, it doesn't matter if they're in your data center, if they're in a colo, if they're in another cloud provider. You can install the hybrid worker role, and you can perform orchestration and automation in any of those environments and take advantage of this solution as the high-level orchestration task for it. Chuck, do you want to touch on updates real quick, and then we'll jump into the rest of the slides?
I do. Thank you again. This is, really good information here. Let's step back over into the Log Analytics portal here, and let's go back over to here. And a section that we want to talk about now, or a solution that we want to talk about now, is the update management. A little bit more background on myself. I was actually an IT director for a Fortune 1000 organization located in Richmond, Virginia. And one of the things that we constantly struggled with on a continuous basis is patch management on the server side. We could manage the patches on the users on the desktop side, but when it came to servers, particularly up until recently, you were very concerned about applying those patches. The update management solution here gives you a nice way to apply and patches across your environment and schedule maintenance windows to actually execute those patches. So if you have a development environment, you may want to take a little bit more aggressive approach to applying patches, and then you could set up a schedule in order to do that. And then if you wanted to say, okay, I'm comfortable with the patches that we've installed in the development environment, let me take on create a second script to install those patches on all of our production servers thereafterwards. This is not one of those things that you're having to sit down on each individual servers and apply those patches individually. It's using the automation tools that are available that Chris just talked about. Here we are able to see our patch levels, which servers are not are missing some critical and security patches. We at Forsyte tend to focus on the security and critical patches to make sure that we are applying those patches on a very regular basis. And as you can see, we have one server that is behind on its patches, and there again, it's the server that we installed recently. We need to go back at some point and apply those patches. However, before we do that, we could actually add it to our update managed update deployment process here, and this is where we can automatically schedule patches to occur on a group of servers. And here, using the tools, some of the tools that Chris talked about earlier, we can actually create groups of servers and schedule patches according to a schedule that we would like them to occur. Okay, we can actually schedule them to run once. We can schedule the patches to run weekly, or we can schedule the patches to occur on a monthly basis. Now, here again, we may want to name this, development servers, and we can create a maintenance window for scheduling how we want to apply patches to these development servers. So I go in here and go FIT, and then it will give me a list of servers here that I can actually apply patches to. The other piece that I think is important here, as we create groups or download groups from Active Directory, we can actually apply that patch to that group, the servers located in that group. And I think it's important to note that, because as we create groups in Active Directory and we are able to synchronize those up into Azure, what that allows us to do is move servers into groups and pull servers out. So we can actually schedule how we would, the servers that we would like to have patches applied to and how we would like them to be maintained. So it's a very powerful tool. This is one of the most exciting pieces that I've seen as part of Azure, as part of OMS. But I'm sure Chris would probably disagree with me, as he he's shown us a lot of good stuff with the Azure automation.
I'm going to show you the coolest thing, and then we'll jump back to the deck. So, for those of you that may be more on the admin side, there's an iPad iOS app, there's an Android app, and you can jump in and get this type of dashboard information on your environment anywhere, anytime, from virtually any device now. So very, very cool to be able to dig in and go through, and maybe you want to set up a custom dashboard for management, maybe you don't, where they can jump in and they can get this data that we've been looking at from any device and really dig into it and see what's going on in the environment. So real quick, I'm going to jump back over to the slide deck, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So last two slides that we want to talk about here are going to be, hold on a second. First, OMS licensing. Microsoft just recently changed the way they licensed it. OMS, if you've got an Azure commit today, you can go through and take advantage of Insight and Analytics for $15 a node, automation and control for 10 a node, security and compliance for 15, or the full protection and recovery suite for $30 a node. If you pre-commit up front for a year, you can get everything in the E1 for $20 a node a month. And that includes full-blown System Center and everything in System Center. Or for the E2, you'll get basically the entire OMS suite plus System Center for $35 a node a month. One of the things we're doing here at Forsyte in conjunction with Microsoft is called the OMS Jumpstart. And so as part of that, we'll come in at no charge to you for qualifying customers. We'll enable and review OMS Log Analytics with you. We'll help you build up to 5 custom alerts for that. We'll enable and review security and compliance for you, do an informational review after we've collected some data there, enable and review automation for you, help you configure update management for your Azure-based virtual machines, as well as enable and review the recovery vault and set up up to 5 servers for backing up, for Azure backup. So something that we're doing today, if you guys are interested in that, please feel free to reach out to us. My name is Chris Irwin. My information is on the screen. My partner is Chuck McBride. His email and phone number is there as well. And we're going to go ahead and open it up to any questions that we may have out there. Oh.
Chris, there is one question about education pricing and whether this applies to education pricing.
Suresh, this is retail pricing. I'm sure it's very different in education. Unfortunately, you've got to talk to your account executive to get the exact price on that. I have no doubt it will be significantly cheaper. I spent almost 5 years in education, and I can almost promise you that's the case. All right. So, any questions? Please feel free to put it in the chat window. We've had a couple come in throughout the session. Also, I'm going to open it up to Q&A mode, and so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in that. So from the chat session, ones that we collected earlier, is there an on-premise version of OMS? No, there's not. OMS is cloud service. There are some components that live on-premise that we've discussed, but there really isn't an on-premise version of it. And I don't know what we want there to be. The ability to crunch the vast majority of logs, etc. It really behooves it to use log service and let Microsoft deal with that.
And I think it's important also to stress that it is a hybrid type workload. So it does recognize on-prem servers. It's just using the data and the information that Microsoft has within their control to process that information.
Backup. So I don't know. I don't recall if we covered this, Chuck, but somebody had sent something in earlier. The backup components are not limited to servers. So the Azure Backup Agent, I actually have a couple of customers that are currently doing this, can be installed on individual desktops. So desktops, laptops out in the field can be backed up directly to Azure. I assume your question.
Yes.
John,
so there's
can you install? Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
That's a very good question, and I think it's important to note that you can install it on a.
Yeah, let's read it off so everybody.
Yeah, can you install it on SCVMM instead of each VM? Absolutely, yes. And I think this is a really nice feature with this tool. You can actually install it on your host, and it will actually read the server information or take the server information or the VMs that are on that host and install the agent or give you the analytics and information that you need within the OMS portal for those devices. So yes, you can install it on the host and it would be recognized.
You said host. Does that also apply to VMware?
It applies to VMware and Hyper-V. Yes,
so
yes it does.
On your ESX host as well. Is DPM included in OMS protection and recovery? Yes, DPM 2012 R2 is included. Depends on really how you buy it. If you go ahead and do the pre-commit, you'll get the full-blown version of System Center, so you'll have the latest bits that come out. If you just do the protection and recovery, you'll get the 2012 version. I'm sure that'll be updated to 2016 shortly. And if you've got 2016, the new version that's come out, you can take advantage of that as well, if you're already licensed for it.
And we like the 2016 version as well because it enables the REFS and improves performance by 50% over the 2012 version. And it actually improves performance and reduces your storage requirements.
We had someone ask earlier if they have ExpressRoute in place, will OMS take advantage of it? And the answer is yes. It takes advantage of the ExpressRoute public peering, so you can connect over that. It doesn't send it over the public internet, but it does take advantage of the public IPs. Excellent. Any other questions? Guys, oh, John's typing something. Hold on.
We have one more question coming in.
Nope.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I hope you found this useful. I know we kind of ran through this fast since we're limited to an hour. If you guys want more information, please feel free to reach out to Chuck and I. We'd be happy to dig in on any of the individual solutions, spend more time going through it with you. If you guys are interested in the Jumpstart program, please let us know. We're happy to engage and make that happen for you. We can get that set up. And I will say the Jumpstart can be customized to your environment and tailored to your needs. That was what we found the most customers are looking for, and so that's what we put in as the default. But if you guys have something else you need to do, if you want help standing up a DPM server as part of it and not necessarily some of the other components, we can definitely work with you and make that happen. This is good through the end of the year. If you guys need anything between now and then, please feel free to let us know. We'll be happy to help you out. Excellent. Well, if there's no other questions, I really do appreciate it. I look forward to hearing from you, and you guys have a great weekend.